Oh, checky.
Bunny short, bunny short.
Abolition.
Hi, how are you? Welcome. My name is Ima. I'm your host, and today's guest is Ngartia. Ngartia is a poet, he's a writer, he's an activist, he's all things beautiful for you, but for me, he's my idea of what the right man looks like, and walks like, and moves like. So we're here to find out more about Ngartia. Yeah, feel free to not engage us and just listen to us. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
To answer, where do you come from? From whom do you come from?
Oh, wow. That question has geography and people. Which one do you want first?
Oh, I'll take the people first.
The people first.
Yeah.
Okay. I am born of a woman called Wamuyo.
Okay.
She's my mother. I love her very much.
Yeah.
And I'm raised by a few communities. So okay. I'll drop the geography in here as well.
Okay. Yes.
So I'm from Timao and Metongo. So
Okay.
raised by a very Kikuyu community and a very Meru community.
Yeah.
But basically ni mtu wa kutoka mwisho wa Thika Road, like ukishafika Thika Road wende
Mwisho yake.
na huko.
I wanted to ask about that one. Timau, I have an idea.
Yeah, people have an idea of Timao because of the nice canola fields pictures and the wheat fields.
See, you like beautiful things.
I do, but then we are also like the last colonized part of Kenya, so there's that.
It took a while for people to arrive.
Yeah, and they never left.
Okay, I come from also a beautiful place.
Where do you come from?
Limuru.
Ooh.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I know people as polite as here.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
More people are polite.
No, when you on your face, you're very polite. You see so many thank yous and sorry. Yeah, but only that performance. I think it could be the cold too.
Yeah, you don't have the energy to.
Like that, if I'm rude to you, who will give me warm?
No, I don't think when people are like particularly polite.
Yeah.
They also don't want to feed into some stereotypes.
There is a stereotype already, which is the opposite of
Metongo
polite.
is in Meru.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know.
stereotype.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you were saving the entire,
I was
the
trying
entire
to.
region,
I was
eh?
trying to. But I actually think like Timao is also in Meru. Kind of like
Yeah.
leans on Meru in Laikipia.
Yeah.
It's right on the border.
I know I didn't do a justice to your bio, and I never asked you. That's my observations and fields of you. How do you identify as in art, let's say, and activism?
It's strange that you mentioned activism because I've not thought of myself as an activist at all. So that's a surprise. It's interesting hearing you say it. I identify as a storyteller,
Yeah.
a writer. I've been trying to figure myself out a bit more of late.
Yeah.
So trying to be like, okay, does my work just encompass orature, which is a lot of it, but then there's also like a lot of writing going into it. So mostly just as a storyteller, a lot of like the poeting and the theatering and the acting and all, they all fit into that.
Yeah.
And a human being attempting to do this human thing.
Mostly
Right?
that.
Yeah.
And we have a right to that.
And so I guess then some of the things one does when they're attempting to be a human being, then
You speak where it needs to be.
and then it comes out
Yeah.
with different labels and all that on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I said, the activism was my own observation, and it's seated on the work you do around colonization and just organizing arts in general. I feel it's a space that requires the work you do and how we navigate it differently. Now the question is, where are your colonial wounds and where do you feel them?
Ooh. I mentioned earlier that it's kind of jokish, but it's not. That Timao is one of the last colonized places. It is. It's. I grew up with this very strange reality where we're surrounded by colonial farms or colonial settler farms, right? And a lot of the things that the place is known for come from either farms that are still colonial settler farms, or say institutions that have bought and taken over that. So you have
meaning the culture of the space and the structure is still colonial,
right? So the wheat farms, which and barley and all that, which we're known for, and canola for the oil, and the flowers, and lots of flowers do come from there, with lots of greenhouses. All that initially came into being to feed that colonization. Like there's
we don't even sound like products I have interacted with.
You haven't interacted with canola?
Canola especially. Canola nimeiona mara kadhaa.
Nimeiona Instagram.
Yeah.
Huko kumata nikujema tu mtu hata mimi mwenyewe sijui nafanyanga. I think ni oil. It can't just be for Instagram pictures.
That's nothing to do with it.
Yeah. If you drench, you interacted with the barley or the wheat.
Yeah. Maua is export too.
You remember when COVID time when we were telling people in the UK sorry when we needed a story as well with the flowers? I suspect they either came from there or Naivasha.
Yeah.
As in this Converse City Market. So it's that, and that dictates a lot of the economy and what people do around. So a lot of the people who raised me were working in those farms. The school I went to, primary school especially, it's a Catholic school, established there specifically to serve those. And you have like old Boer families that have been there for like a generation or two. My grandfather worked in a colonial settler farm. The shamba they had where my mother grew up and where I spent a lot of time as a child was bought off the settlers who left after independence, right? So it's this strange thing where you have on one side all that colonialism still very present, and then on another side a lot of Mau veterans who survived the war were settled around Timao. I don't know what the political reason was
around that.
Maybe
because it's far.
It's kind of far. It's on the other side of the mountain. It's leeward, and maybe to also keep the people in check. But people like Field Marshal Mariama. It's basically like a village away. Growing up, it was like, oh, the small mom, but then our grandparents were we didn't know. Then later on is when we're like, oh, that's wow, that's quite a lot of work to be done, and then you're tossed like that. Things like the nearest big town is Nanyuki, where the railway famously ends. Really should be. It's an exclamation mark. It's like we're extracting, and how you know we're extracting from is like this is the last part. We're like, okay, now's the right time.
You must be the feeding point.
Yes. So there's that. That's where I'm born in. That's my first reality. But then also growing up, my grandmother, my maternal social, would speak a lot about where she's from. She was a very proud Kiabu woman, and that's as far away from Kiambu as you can get and still be somewhere within the region of the mountain. And her story was very specific. It was like we were living our lives, and then a massacre happened around Lari, and we had to run and all that. And that's how eventually we met your grandfather and all that. So
like my lyrics, Larry, that's Ketidia.
Yes.
That's where I grew up. Yeah.
So you know about the Larry massacre?
Massacre, yes.
That was a childhood story.
She's a victim.
Yes. And then I go up and find it in books, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I go to Babu Ashosho.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so erased back home. In Limuru, I came to find out about it in my adulthood. They don't speak of it.
Is it intentional or is it the truth?
I think it's the truth of. I feel everyone who stayed is the people who agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the colonial ones, I actually don't think it would exist if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
Because my grandfather already had a family, and then when they had to go into the forest.
I forgot these people. Tell them about the Larry massacre. I forgot these
Let's we try a short.
Yeah, a capsule version.
Yeah. So when are we speaking direct?
Yes, tell them now.
So when at the height of the state of emergency, when our people were fighting for freedom in different fronts, the political and the armed, one of the leading sides of that was the Kenya Land and Freedom Army, which is popularly known as Mau. And one of the things they were going for was the elimination of collaborators and people who were really, really in the forefront of oppressing people. A lot of these were chiefs, colonial chiefs. The state of emergency started after one of the chiefs, Senior Chief Waruhi, was murdered. The jury is still out on who did it, but they got the blame. But then one of the more notorious chiefs was called Buka. And they came after Buka, and he was living in a place called Ngartia, and they killed Buka and his family and other collaborators and disappeared. But then the British administration with the home guards, especially because the people who were targeted were home guards, and that they retaliated and massacred, say, double the number of people. Anyone who was suspected to have any Mau leanings, their families were wiped out and banned. And then after they did that, then they invited the press and blamed the entire massacre on the Mau. And it became like the biggest propaganda source to dehumanize the freedom fighters and to justify now the massacres that followed after that. Yes, that's like a short history.
So Shosho is at Larry when this is happening.
Yeah, she's like in her late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
But Buka is a bit older and already has a small family. But then when they have to go to the forest, and Ngartia 40, the generation of the 40s, one of his relatives was not in that shit. And this is the thing, that it's always so complex. It's easier for us to look back at it and be like, oh, collaborators. Oh, but in the midst of a war, it's not that clear. So you have families split in the middle, where a sibling is a home guard, but then the sibling is in the forest fighting. And it was one of those situations. And once he went into the forest, he left his young wife and kids. But the wife was also part of the revolution and was taking intelligence and feeding them and all that. And one of the family members snitched. So they attacked her, they killed her and a toddler. And so he learned that way later. And so growing up, I understood, we're kind of my mother's siblings, and then older step siblings were like now the kids who were left around. So after he got arrested at some point, he escaped, he then took his kids, and then remarried, and that's where Shosho comes into the picture. So if two things hadn't happened, if his family hadn't been murdered, and the Larry massacre had not happened, forcing by Shosho to be really an internally displaced person, chances are they wouldn't have met. She's from like deep Nyeri Mukuroini, and she's from Kiambu, and at that time it wasn't a very
even encouraged union.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm here thanks to thank you very much to pay taxes.
So your UN words, yeah. Where do you feel your origin story with words is? Yeah, and the first time, or maybe we can start with the first time you realize words could shift things.
Oof. That's interesting. But I feel like it has multiple starting points. It's like things just start fitting together. Well, as I mentioned, I grew up around my grandparents, and it was a very audible space. Like, those stories, the Larry was a story. She loved that story. The point was this is
a horror story, sure. You can't only tell me bedtime. It's a horror story, first of all. She
was a hero in it. So like,
you must know.
About you. But so many. And she was also in that strange space where a lot of people who were victims of this violence also became very religious in the Christianity side. Right? And it's complex.
Really?
It's very complex.
And I struggle to say sad. Yeah, because it's complex.
I think there's an active discussion or argument ongoing at the moment on Twitter around that.
Yeah.
Do you even call it Twitter anymore? But anyway, I'm digressing.
We didn't know. I'm an old person. I Facebook.
No, it's a conversation happening around Christianity and missionaries and colonialism and if they were serving the same purpose or not. But she was into that evangelizing and preaching and so raised kids that way. And so I have an uncle who's a pastor, and others who fell off that bandwagon, but everyone really liked stories and humor. And so there was that I would sing a lot. Well, whichever, but I remember one of my aunts, specifically Auntie Judy, really loved stories, and what we'd listen to on radio was Kikuyu radio, and I think Shoro FM had this program with Gibia, a storyteller, who just come and tell and they were hilarious. Right? But then most times I'd be in school, so she'd listen, and memorize the thing, then come and tell us a story, right? And we really had that thing for stories as well, and waiting for food in it. But there was a lot of that. But then going to a Catholic school meant that I also got access to a lot of books that were donated from missions outside. And we were reading the Ladybird series. Really. But then there was also this time, there's an explosion of African and Kenyan folktales for children, and we had access to a lot of them. So words started coming into my life in a concrete way around that time. But then I remember being in class 6, I think I was 10, and Ushairi really got me. The Swawan, that's what I was okay! Watu wanasema kitu! I can feel it right here. Easy, Monteo and Vina, and that's when I started using my words. Switching to English poetry, I think the time was 12, and they've kind of stuck around. I don't know if I've answered that question.
You have really answered that question very much. There's something about you saying you started now participating back. Even here, there's something about when the words hit right, and it's not even just consume. It's I must add to this. I fancy that a lot. Let me see. What other thoughts do I have? Okay, now in the narrative of stories. You're quite something online. Yeah. What do you feel is the distance between you and your avatars? Or how do you see them?
I'm actively at the moment trying to renegotiate that space.
Okay.
Right? There's a huge distance between me and the moment and whoever I've presented as, and because I feel like I got onto social media and this probably a very familiar story for almost everyone in our age group, is that the thing came into our lives as we were getting into a certain level of maturity, getting into adulthood, and now you can access the online. And it's fun and games.
Yeah.
It was like, it's a space where we can make puns and that, and share stories and make friends. But then it has evolved as we're growing as well. It's like now it's like it's a professional space. It's like
what do you feel about that part of it?
I have mixed feelings because I worked in advertising for a short stint in digital advertising, and people were figuring out how to market things online, and influencers were coming up in a big way, and brands were trying to find voices and all that. So I've kind of seen part of what happens in the background of that. I'm like, and I've also I have many friends who are in that space, and there are a lot of people who are genuinely the same people.
They present.
And then there are people who project a persona. And for me, at some point, it felt like, okay, there's an image I'm keeping up. Like there's a certain kind of artist I need to be or to be seen as. And there's a person, there's a funny guy, this. But then there are lots of days I'm not funny. There are lots of days she's not funny at all, right?
And there might be the days they might be the days you even need the platform more than others.
And it felt, at some point it felt like there was like a separation that was happening. And I feel like I still need to maintain the it's very funny, but I'm very far from that space. And then I started feeling uncomfortable. Right? So like for the last couple of years, which is why I've asked that, like I've slowly been getting away from the socials. And now I'm trying to figure out what I would want to present there, because it's a space, it's a tool, and I don't want to live in it.
You want to curate it.
I want to curate it, but in a way that's genuine to me. It's like I've been on an identity journey with the histories and all that, and so I feel like, okay, so I can't be like, this is the things I've been looking at, and I feel they're very interested in and that's very genuine to me, because that's where I am. And once I'm done with that, a chat will come like, hey, here's a kapom, I think it's nice. I feel like that's a bit more in touch with how social media felt like when I was starting out, before I started being kila mtu Instagram anafanya professional photo shoots. kuna random selfies anymore.
I can't do that.
I'm doing something.
But it was shit how I redid my social media 5 years ago. I couldn't make a joke. No one would laugh. Sorry. I did the opposite of you. I curated it to a lot of vulgarity and nonsense, because I didn't feel I was allowed anything but seriousness for a while.
You're a very serious person.
I don't know me. That's a distance, that's from there, man. Yeah, and also honestly, I got more comedy centered as as I got to my 30s. Yeah, before then I was way more serious, honestly. That was some of the truth of it.
Is it easier now?
Yeah, for sure. What you're saying, the distance between me and the thing you're saying isn't that far. I am that thing also, but also there are things I feel are sacred to me or different for me. I'm not the kind of thing that functions well within a public applause and watch. I am mean and find homework related. Yes, so we can be laughing between now and then. And also like I enjoy coded language, so in there's a lot of wisdom and the politics if you want to find them.
I feel like always be like politics.
Yeah.
You're in the seriousness.
Yeah.
I need to go stalk you.
It's just nonsense. What's going on? Let's touch on what. Let's see. How do you function in a system that a lot of young Kenyans actually pray to face at some point? And by this I mean you have faced your state, you have faced your arts. How have you navigated those things? And to still hold on to the dreams or the thoughts that brought you on the table.
What's the first part of that? Functioning in a system that a lot of young Kenyans
are actually working together. Your space within poetry is like what I would say is one of the most beautiful journeys of a poet in this country. And to lead into the work you ended up doing within 245, within how you navigate spaces for a lot of people. Be it the conversations on the normal places or just causing chaos on Twitter for people who are problematic. How has that been for you to be there? And how have you navigated it?
Again, the sections to that answer. I'll start with the positive. There's a big part of it that has been fulfilling for a period of time, right? Because I've been that kid being like, I have things to say, and I if only someone could give me a chance, if people could listen, if I could ask people to show up and they actually show up, and that happens and people do that and feel the support, and that has been absolutely fulfilling, and getting to work with a lot of people and looking at it and being like, I really like shit you do, and I think the shit I do with the shit you do work really well. That was a very, very wonderful part of that. Then at the same time, in the spirit of honesty, it has been very disorienting. In that you get into spaces and you're trying to do stuff, right? But no one prepares you for what the spaces are really like, or what they do to you, or the fact that corner lights 1, 2, 3, 4, then the person watching from the other side is not aware of, right? And using the lights here as a very loose metaphor, is that what's presented within this frame is not what's happening. Really, it's not the reality within this room. Like it looks like it's the two of us and there's probably one person behind the camera. That's not the reality, and that applies to the entire thing, right? And I felt like I should have been a bit prepared for that, also because I came through like theater and I studied film kidogo. It was like, I know what the hell I'm doing. No, I didn't.
Yes, I have not met the people.
That's it. And it's very easy to lose yourself and lose your identity as well, and it's one of the things I feel I've been a bit detached from, and I'm trying now to find my way back into it, is the poetry. And it's interesting that you say that, because I feel like I've been missing from that scene. Kila thing walitokea, it's like, nice guy.
You got this.
Carried the thing. It was like, and it comes with, I think, worked. It's like the stories and the histories and all that worked. And from my training and how I grew up and how I understood the world is, if a thing works, then you give it your all. You try, you've been asking for this chance, and there are other people out here who are begging for such a chance. If you get a chance, go all the way in, go all out, try to lead it. But I also didn't know you don't have to be giving your 150%
all the time.
And it's very easy to make excuses for not taking care of yourself, because you're pursuing something that you've been down for, and your dreams are coming true as it happens, right? And if you do that, like for me, it led to burnout.
Yeah.
And it hits you sometimes when now you've actually got it to where the space you wanted to be in, so you can flex.
Hapo
Sasa hapo
ndo
breakdown zinaanza. And that has not been pretty for me. Like the last couple of years or so has been a lot of navigating the mess that comes with also discovering your mental things. Uko pia unamuona na diagnosis or something if
simuuliza maswali.
Who am I? Well, guess what? This is you and this is what you right? It can be very fulfilling, but it can also destroy you in ways that are not even very perceptible. And so now I'm relearning and trying to find my way back into myself. There's that poem, I remember the poet, but it's wishing you a good return to yourself. And I feel like I've been returning to myself and realizing now that a lot of the things I thought I wanted and I needed to accomplish and relate to that were not absolutely necessary for me to do the work I want to do or I need to do. But it's fed to you, and you kind of have to go through those motions. Unafika place na watu wako nadhani they've made it and they're going to give you the answers.
They are not just beautiful, they know better. That's the system within our environment. I think very loudly. It's older generations coming to climb on your back very quickly. And it's something I would love to see the breaking of.
But it's insane. It's always like, I've been watching you do your thing. I was trying my best
swinging it
to get
it. You're swinging it. You keep winning. Just flying,
Guys, hakuna mtu anajua kitu anadini.
Could say
like chokweli.
That's what we want to know what you're doing. What's the mystery of creating life if we think we know what you're doing? I feel it's the continuous engagement with the environment, and yourself every time I wake up.
But every day.
It's every day. See, mbona wanakuamsha every day unafikiria wachuki. Pia leo unaamka every day bila job. But I know burnout, and I know that's what it means. It's even your sleep wanting to rest. It is. But that's not the time to ask more from yourself, but also, like when I went through my hard years and my toughest years, and I know maybe worse ones are coming, I have.
Thanks.
It
doesn't get better.
I know, there might be worse ones coming, For now it's not bad, but worse ones might be coming. I have friends who are very close to me, and my spiritual partners, some of them. And I think they were lighting a candle for me as I was going through that. Who is lighting candles for you? And how do they love you that makes you get up and get up? Yeah.
Oof. Let me start by connecting the last answer, because it would be posturing if I left that answer that way. I've been in a very lost place, and I'm still navigating that space. And many times I wish there's a call. The guy I was when I was 21, 20, who had answers to everything, and be like, how about this?
It's a callback, actually.
Yeah, please.
It's a threat and trouble.
Yeah. And there's been like lots of changes in my personal, like artistic, professional life, and through it, people have held me and guided me and shifted as per the phases I was going through. I've had friends who have been probably friends I've had for the longest. I wouldn't drop names.
You're not like that.
But who pick up calls with like the weirdest of times and the weirdest of things. It's like, hey, current kamumana.
Yeah.
Hey, nimeanguka na gari mahali.
Yeah.
Hey. And they show up and life keep moving. There are people who've helped me figure out how to deal with mental illness and in like finding the language and being like been here, but it's not new and it's rough and sometimes it's get rougher and it might get a bit easier. It's that and within that the people who've even offered when you're offered the grace and the space to just lose your mind and lose yourself.
Do it here.
Do it here and
especially this.
Drop
you're those ones.
Super grateful for those ones and it just happens and you don't have to worry about the respectability politics and then later think if you are me, and I guess this applies to other people, then you come back on your apology tour like, please I'm not, and I'm still like
imagine you're here for this,
right? I've been at places where either I couldn't I was in a space where I could live by myself and friends mostly me and that's like I couldn't take care of myself, I couldn't trust myself and I've been in spaces where I couldn't afford to do that and there are people who took me in and I'm immensely grateful for that and that's that's not enough. And people who love me just in all these different ways. And a lot of it is not public love and it's there when you need it. It's there when you think you don't need it. I'm extremely grateful for the people who are still in my life, and there are people who also are not in my life,
but still grateful.
For the journey.
Thank you for allowing us to have also carried you, but have you with yourself also when you are in that moment, in that space whereby there's things that are really cold. How do you keep you waking up on the days it's you handling it?
I'm learning a lot of that. Like they used to have beings that work that got to a point they no longer worked, and I'm learning how to sustain myself again bit by bit. mostly I'm really grateful to storytellers because books have saved my life a bunch of times. And right there, and probably just a degree, sometimes higher musicians. My God, is I hold on to music, like the way that was thinking that longer drowning men hold on to straws. My straws are music. And I've recently taken up gardening, which is it's not a strange thing. It just feels like going back home. It feels like and then
bring the village to you.
Like getting off social media was an immense shift for me. And got me to also realize how far I'd moved from hearing myself, right? Because it's so easy to feel all these, your head with all these other voices. And I want to avoid using the word distraction, but sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's you need to get away from hearing or feeling what you're feeling, and so you jump onto the timeline, and that serves that purpose, right? But then sometimes it piles up, but then you're feeling inside, and until you can't open it up, right? Then you don't get to face it. Going back to journaling, discovering what therapy can do, and then what you also have to do past therapy.
Your own work.
Yes.
Your homeworks.
I have a couple of cats. That
helps.
That help in days where I couldn't get out of bed, but they kind of have to be fed. They won't let up and get out for the cats, but then you stay for yourself. I should have gotten this question and you couldn't have PDF.
It's also that you have so many medicines to this life.
And that's because they're not always working the same way, and some of them are things I'm discovering along the way, and some of them are things I'm trying to go back into. Yes.
I am also a person who people gather around. So the people who are gathered around me speak very fondly of your protection. What got you to be that human being and lend that to others?
That's interesting.
Do you feel so about yourself? Do you feel you cover the ones you need?
I'd say I tried. I try, and at the same time, I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm a human being who can be harmful as well. So it's a strange thing to. I don't want to impress that because I'm not aware. I'm not fully aware. Like I've been auditing myself and auditing my friendships, and trying to be like, okay, here are the places I've not been a very good human being. I've been a very decent person. I've been a half person. I've been this type of friend. And when that comes up, I'm like, there are places where I didn't extend that. And then there's places, especially when I'm in a space where I feel I'm responsible for people or responsible for why people are gathering. I do try to do my best where that comes from, I don't know the people you're talking about, but if it's from the artistic space and the professional space, I was in spaces where I didn't feel very protected. I didn't, and I still carry hurt, and I'm still trying to deal with hurt from being with people that I trusted, and so I started performing and writing in the scene when I was like 17.
Yeah.
I was a kid.
Yeah.
Right, and I was a kid, and I was fresh in Nairobi as well, so I was really, really clueless. So I gave a lot of faith to people, and then later on, as I was looking at it, I was like, I don't think that's okay. I don't think that should have happened.
Yeah.
That also came in carrying a lot of wounds. I had a very painful childhood. And I guess some of that is me subconsciously projecting.
Protecting your shoulders.
Yeah. But then I've also been in spaces where I am part of the people responsible for gathering the thing.
Yeah.
And then afterwards learning that someone got hurt with the what we're doing. And that kind of it dials up.
It pinches.
Yeah. And you try to avoid that as much as possible. Though it's interesting because I've learned as well that sometimes it gets to an unhealthy point.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm very reluctant to claim it. This is something I'm trying to come to terms with as well, where it can get to, there's a good part where you're trying to make sure people are protected, and then there's a part where you want to play that, role.
Yeah.
And then it's
like go seeking it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you do it to a point where it's no longer really about the people you're protecting. It's
the performance of
you
it.
being the person protecting.
Or even just even if it's a private one. How you say these spaces you feel you could have done more in that point?
Yeah.
How do you navigate forgiving yourself saying such a situation?
It's realizing and coming to terms with the fact that I'm responsible for my own actions, and I'm not responsible for other people's actions, even if I know them or we're in the same space together. You've invited me here, which means to a certain level you're responsible for my being here, right? And there's a way I would act out here that the responsibility for that, the back of it will stop with you. Like, now you're the one who got that guy.
Take care of that.
Yeah.
Handle your shit.
There's that. But then that doesn't excuse me from my shit.
Yeah.
I am actually responsible.
I am coming to ask you for your accountability for that shit. Yeah.
And so understanding that first and knowing there's a separation between that. And I don't have to now take responsibility for my thing and then for the other person's shittiness. Is that and then two, the things that can only be taken care of sit by the law. Right? And like if I'm being a particular kind of discriminative, for example, hiyo labda tuende tuko TV. Like huyo mtu bwana apendi watu watoka mahali fulani.
The state should take care of it. When you were talking about that idea of protect people as a thing, actually my biggest disadvantage around it is that I feel it carries the same vulnerability with the young you that came to Nairobi. It creates so much. It's also a light that people who want to take advantage of gather around. That has been a very long narrative for me. So you also end up in this, being carrying more than we know you can handle. Yeah?
Yeah. The question is, do you know you
Yeah.
can handle it? Right?
Yeah.
It's that thing for I'm really terrible remembering who I'm quoting.
Yeah, it's very allowed.
It's being careful with your light. It will attract butterflies and moths.
Yeah.
Or something along that line. My apologies to moths. I have nothing against them. I think they're beautiful creatures. But when
you see what side you are, light skinned, I see. So
but that's the thing. You come with this kalite and you don't know what it's going to bring your way. And there are a lot of people walking around and working in these spaces who have terrible sides to them. Yeah. Right? As much as maybe people are not 100% terrible or 100% this, but they have terrible sides to them. And sometimes they know, and sometimes other people know. But then that's not the image they present, right? And that's not their work. When you see their work, it doesn't come with that. And you learn about who they are or what they're capable of a bit way into deep when you've gone a bit way far. And there is also realizing that we're learning as we're going. That's still in how I'm dealing with my things. Like, couldn't have known everything that happens.
And if there was a kuoga na kurudi sokoni, it's that situation for me. Iyo ya umekuja kunipaka matope. Bro, me I know what don't play.
How do you rudi sokoni, by the way? Because that's one of my questions.
One of my questions. The next question was first for you. Then if you don't know, you ask me. Where do you bury your shame?
I'm looking for those graves.
You started a shamba. You just told me you have a garden.
Yeah. No, and the garden teaches me a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? It teaches me patience.
Yeah.
But it also teaches me that growth comes from the rot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Kata hizo vitu zeke because it becomes compost, maybe, and that's where the nice stuff is going to come from, right? But the garden sits with the compost as well. Yeah. Right? And I've discovered a lot of those rotty kind of like the shame and guilt. And I'm gonna separate shame from embarrassment because I feel like shame also feeds into that. Yeah. And sometimes they clog you up so much. Yeah. You don't know what to do with it. Like it's easy to use the garden analogy, but the garden just has to be there. Yeah.
You're moving and feeling.
So at the moment, one of the things I'm doing is, as I find my way around poetry again, is interrogating them through that and writing and dealing with them. Yeah. But I don't have the answers, so I don't. So how do you deal with it? And so where it was really poetic way to answer. So where do you bury them? Yeah. But then after that, how do you walk back into the space? How do you walk the streets? How do you do the things?
First, I think I'm like marinated in shit. So I think it's also coming from expertise. I was a young girl who looked like a boy who didn't do the right thing since I was a child. I've looked queer all my fucking life. Shame is all I know, yeah? Like if something got lost in class, I'm not gonna say it's you, because I'm the least important, like in capital value, yeah? Is the existence of being also visibly queer and also a loudmouth dark-skinned thing, yeah? So I could say like me and Shame have been there a while, but my last good dose of shame and guilt, which was came around my burnout in 2017, I have this idea of just sitting with everything, the rain, yeah? Like I would sit with each one of them and the faces I've put on them until I find out what is really behind that face. Yeah, I have also first started with what am I taking that's not mine. Yeah, because also I can be carrying people and carrying shit, but I stop it, like, we don't need it like that. Yeah, pick out which ones were yours and which ones were others, and then throwing at you even. Yeah, I felt one of my biggest shame was something you have mentioned a lot. I felt very naive about how I felt the industry had stepped into. I thought we are there to make a change. So most of my shame was maybe stupid. Yeah, like that was most of my shame. Yeah, like when I ironed out the conflicts with people, the bad naming, the backbiting, the stabs. When I remove all the others, it's why didn't I see this coming? And as people who use words, we are quite slapped by a lie or a mistruth or a lack of, especially if reality seems not to be what we thought it was, yeah? So the first thing I have to admit is that reality is not what I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah? It is, yeah? And it's something that I can engage with or not how I know, yeah? I also exist with a legion of guides and gods and goddesses that have been throughout even all those other past shapes, yeah? And when I am crying, they're just laughing whenever you're done. So I also have very main gods around me, which helps navigating shame much easier. There are things that I have totally fucked up, and there is menses to be made. There is words I have to take back. There are people I have to go apologize to. It's doing all that work for me. And also, I feel there's a leaving of that thing, that transition we're talking about, that person, and allowing this other person for real, because new knowledge looks like a new existence for me. So yeah, I have a good time creating her, putting earrings, removing, giving it gender or lack thereof. Yeah, yeah. I do kind of go with it. If our existence is that, I design a new one, yeah? And this one is quite aware of the mistakes that we will not repeat, yeah? I also I am very okay with you telling me, yeah, if the shame there's people we are ashamed around, and you know what you did, I will come to that face. I will show up for that, yeah, if I can. There's people who have picked that face while in the meantime exploiting us.
Yeah.
Oh, you too, if I don't tell you my truth, I won't be able to hear from you. Because my biggest shame is also that I got you somewhere and I feel you're a wound there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my shame for me right now, yeah. Hi, love. Hi. Okay.
A platform should be back.
Yeah, it's back. It's happening. It's my first one, so it has to be seen. I've been roasting everyone who's buying them because I'm a connoisseur of boots. I'm owning boots even when you people are busy doing other things. And now they brought this 90s back, and I tried to have a conversation. They're like, platform? You old fuck. You don't even know what platform's that. So I started minding my business. So now I bought one. I've joined them. Who do you pray to?
I've not prayed in the conventional definition of that word in a long time, but I've been having conversations and interactions with, or trying to find them, because Christianity is not my thing. I said we're going to be at some point. That was very clear at some point. Then the whole set of Abrahamic religions came, and it was like, okay, these issues they can't let us define up. But I've been finding more and more peace and connection with my ancestors, and try to understand and have conversations with their idea of a divine being. Instead like that, instead of jumping straight into Kai or Wenenera, because I feel like not only have the words been corrupted and taken in and given other meanings and ascriptions, even the understanding of who or what those entities were, what that entity was, has been completely changed.
We were talking about your God's love, yeah?
Yes.
There's a misunderstanding within Ngai and the deity itself and other like deities. What knowledge have you gathered there?
I would say I have a lot,
Yeah.
but what's clear right now is how much it has been, how much our imaginations have been dominated to a point where you hear Guy or Nenega or Guy or whatever, and first image is sky daddy. It's like some dude in the sky with, and that's a completely it's a foreign, it's a very Indo-European thing.
It arrived with the features of the
Yes. And now it's seeped past the Christianity and the Islam and all that, but actually let me not throw Islam there, because it's a totally different imagination there. But it's seeped into our imaginations where we project back what these concepts we have of what a god or what the god or whatever is into what our community's imaginations of that. So part of what I've been learning and trying to look, I'm hoping to find more about into, is the fact that even the singularity of Guy as one entity might be a very recent concept, right? The gender ascription of it, it's probably very recent. Our languages even don't work with pronouns. The distance that Wenenyaga had with the people is very interesting because you didn't bother him or them with your day-to-day troubles. You deal with the shit and you have your ancestors.
You do your rituals even, you should not talk to each other for a long time.
And then if it's really, really, really important and you can't solve this, then the guy will come in. And I was reading up on this, studying was more towards the Mugumo as a sacred entity, but one of the interesting things that came up was one of the names for Wenenyaga that's barely used now is Mobi, and it's barely used as a word by itself, right? It's used as a descriptor, like as a creator, but by itself, it used to be a thing, which then casts the entity in a feminine way as well. And now you say that, it's gonna look like you're being sacrilegious. No, it's because you have this in the Christian, in the European.
Like in my memory, I can remember when a god named Mobi. Yeah, I can remember that as a kid happening around me, and it's insane.
And it translates from right there also to the legendary mother of the community. And reading up on this, we shared a lot, right, with the communities around us. So in Murugu is still a word in Kikuyu that cross over to Meru, and Murugu becomes one of the main ones. And Gai will we'll still refer to God, but then we also refer to rain.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like such a direct correlation between the giver of the rain and the rain and all that. But there's this exchange and mixture with the mass speaking traditions, where there's a theory that Kai comes from Enkai. Right? And that in our interactions, we borrowed so much, including the concept of the divinity. But the Maasai also have this understanding of Enkai as sometimes separate entities. And you have, I think Enkai Lemukie is, I think, the red Enkai and like the black Enkai. And they're constantly interacting, and there's technically you should use the most accessible words, a good and a bad one. And when things are serene and it's raining and it's all that, each one side of this divine entity, and then there's this other one. It's like and I feel like I'm scratching the surface. And it's way richer than the understanding I've had growing up of what these divine entities are. So I'm in that space. While also dealing with very 21st century existential problems of all these things constructs, right? That we've made ourselves over times as humanity to deal with the fact that we don't know what's going on. Right? You're born, tunafanya hii kwa mambo, uko na miaka zako kadhaa, you do it.
Watu wakuaminie.
You don't know what's going on. We don't
would you be at peace with that? That is so.
I'm trying to be at peace with that because it doesn't look like I have an option.
There's no option.
No, what are we doing?
There's no option.
Like these Western traditions that try to impose their superiority on us as much as that's bullshit. Acting like written records and all that, or this big deal. You go back like as much written records as you can get. If it's not the Egyptians going maybe 4,000 years BCE, it's what, like the Sumerian and those Achaeans, like those that spread where the used to be Mesopotamian or whatever, but there's the traditions that are just before Mesopotamia and all that, and they also go like 5,000 years max, right? But they'll tell us that we've been this level of human being with this level of consciousness for at least 70 years, 70,000 years, like 200 to 70,000 years, right? We only have mostly like 10k of that, of being like, so what are we doing here? Where do we come from? What's the point?
I don't think it's your business. I think like the first time I interacted with like that disconnect with religion, I declared myself an atheist at the age of 17. My entire family. Can you even come out in India that way for years? Could be acted like I have killed them.
Of course.
But it was the reaction is what made me realize the heaviness of what religion is in society and how people negotiate each other. Religion's biggest part is this order thing, is this contract of you're a good Christian or let's pretend to be this thing, or Muslims or that, I managed, I think, what I feel was 10 good years without any central religious space. Then I got lonely. And so I created and I picked some gods. So like, that's the number of acceptance I have with this plan. I even chose the ones, like those ones I feel we've had conversations, There's a few points, maybe 3 points in my life I think I have said somebody told somebody show up, and they showed up. And those ones also we keep each other. But no, a lot of it is our way of feeling warm and not alone. And the sadness, pathetic that is. it's part of why we are killing each other, yeah? It will continue to exist. I think I'm responsible for my own moral compass and not creating harm intentionally. I feel the rest, everybody's having a good time on a game. I'm sorry for those ones who are not aware that this is a construct that's not theirs. Yeah, I am happy for the people who have found miracles and gifts in that thing, whether it's a placebo or not. Yeah, like it's a thing. Like the way you know there's a show called Love is Blind, but that's Love is Blind. Oh, Christianity. Oh shit. When I am born, oh, Missions is on fire. But also, it really affects my life. When they decide no, it's on fire, it's on fire. So I have that part in, you see, I show up by having a conversation. That's the most I'm gonna do. The last time we tried to pack this ones up, they killed one women. I'm not trying. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So like I know it's not the existence outside you that bothers you as much as your own thing with it. And the fact that there's no one in charge really makes you in charge more than anything else.
But brings us to the question, what's going on?
You have to give us the plan, you tell us. If you have recognized it, you're the one to share what you know or create a space where people can share that thing with each other. I know there's a few people who have walked the universe in a different way. People who know what they're doing. And mostly they keep telling us, just have a good time.
Yeah, because this thing is insane. It's I like the thing, but you choosing God because it got lonely, right? Yeah. And one of the theories I'm really leaning towards is that that's what keeps happening.
Yeah.
That's what we can't ascertain for sure whether our ancestors are still around.
Yeah.
Right?
And those ones you'd like to keep.
Yeah. And I kind of choose.
Those I feel. Like, there are things I don't feel. Like in my blackness, there are things I know. I do know I am my grandmother, even if I knew her for only 3 years. I know that doesn't make sense. I know there's contracts. I feel like one of my theories is like people like us, yeah. Those are the things that I think I can quantify and explain as a human being. Like I'm quite aware that I can't navigate those things, but they're also not godlike or supernatural. They're just things I don't understand.
They might be a bit bigger than your scope.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that too.
And it manifests itself. Okay, so today we're here, right? And I feel the things I feel led to do, and I feel an impulse to do, and I need to do.
Yeah.
And some of them are very heavy and scary work, right? There's stories I've known I need to tell for a long time, for more than 10 years now. And a lot of the work I've done has been inching towards those stories, right? But when I started feeling the urge, the really deep urge to tell those stories, I wasn't prepared for them. And you get into them and they're like, oh my God, no. And then I didn't have the tools for them, and even the understanding, and even as myself, even now I'm like, if I told this story 5 years ago, there's a space I was in, maybe that was very very sure of my leanings and my ways of thinking and all that, I would not have done this story justice. Right? Yeah. But anytime I really veer away from telling the story, something brings me back. Yeah. Sometimes gently, sometimes not gently at all. Right? And Vinyasema, as this black African human being from my very specific context, it feels on me. Yeah. And I can feel how it relates to my people. And a friend of mine, Alea, recently were talking about a particular story, and she was like, no, you need to tell that story because it's yours within your context and no one else can tell it no one else has the lived experience or comes from the same context as you, and they wouldn't do it justice in that way. So I agree in that there are those things, right? And you feel them, and then you can't articulate them, especially in these worlds that we've created and have been created in.
Because it has no language for such things.
It doesn't. Or you need to fit within, certain logical boxes or reasonable set. But there's so much that doesn't make sense. Where on a piece of rock that's hurtling through space, tuanze tu hapo.
Imagine kuna chini. Wacha hii kwa wengine huku chini. Imagine.
Like one of my favorite statistics ever is that this planet is called Earth. I don't know why it's called Earth. It should be called water.
Yeah.
It's like 75% water. Right? The soil, the land part of it is the minority.
Okay, it could be imaginary.
Right? Higher. Of the 75% or more that makes this planet, human beings have explored and mapped out. The regular estimates are like 5%. The most ambitious estimates are 15 to 20%. We don't know what more than half of this planet has. Right? All our years.
So you're saying there's a chance I could find a leprechaun?
Yes. And a mermaid.
Okay, moving on.
Yes.
This sounds like a very hopeful statistic to me. Actually.
I can understand the question of is there other life out there? But where are we focusing on that? We don't know who's here with us. Like who might show up to Lamu, Kesho, and be like, okay, we've been watching you guys for 2,000 years.
Within ourselves. I think they're the same statistics in knowing ourselves or how we function of this thing. There's something I found. You have said you are making up thoughts as we have a conversation and feeling yourself and weighing yourself. I feel I need to add something about my goals. I think I also picked them when I found my purpose. I needed to assign somebody in charge of this work so that I also have somewhere to go cry to or pray to for it. And so that's a very big use of the words I picked, and they are quite tailored for those things.
That's interesting. Has your purpose remained firm?
Oh yeah, my purpose is to speak, see and speak it in many forms. I continue to be that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But sometimes I struggle, but it still stood up for it when the days that were hard. And when I needed to be quiet, I also sat with that.
Congratulations on assigning entities to it. And leaning onto it even when it's not strong enough. But I understand that.
When it's hard, what do you pray to? What?
As I'm finding ways to now talk to my ancestors and the understanding.
But will they get comfortable enough when I show my name and I know that's entitled?
No, we do be having conversations. And I'm getting more and more comfortable with asking for guidance and help and all that. But what I've struggled with, and I'm still struggling with, is peeling off all these things I've been taught.
The learned truths of them.
Yes. So there's both of whether and their existence and and how I should think about them in my relationship with them, and for that to happen, you even have to peel off what's what's been, as we're saying, what's been designated as logical and reasonable, and sometimes look at the nonsense as the nonsense. For example, we're supposed to be living in a reasonable, very logic-centered society, where science makes sense. It's 1 + 1 and all this. But logic and reason by itself don't come from a very sciencey base. These, from their Greek origin, they come from people who were going on to the Oracle of Delphi and the Oracle of and they had these cards, all the Socrates and the Platons, they were in these goddamn cards, right? Pythagoras had a card of his we're not even sure whether the Pythagorean theorem actually came from, but it's just from the
No, at least I gathered the people, maybe it's my theory.
Gravity, all these white people we've been told about. Isaac Newton was trying to be an alchemist. Before like, okay, maybe it's chemistry. Maybe it's not alchemy. Right now, you say you're an alchemist, people are going to look at you like you're insane, right?
But they really fulfilled that one. You recognize that one.
But within this space that we're operating in as well, the major forces, the religious forces we're talking about, you're supposed to suspend this logic. Okay? Like with our, you operate with logic on a day-to-day basis. However, once we tell you that a virgin gave birth
at 40, please stop taking substantial. I'm not going to the next year.
To a God who came from the Father, but who is also one with the Father.
But also he's a man.
But he came to save you from the consequences of what he might do to you if you don't love him. Because he loves you.
What's entertaining? I think that was my trigger to understand. What the hell did you do to him over there?
And all these other layers and all these other stories that you
use of mythology.
So much mythology, right? And you have to suspend so much. It's called the suspense of disbelief, right? So that really it's all centered on belief. Like you have to believe this story, okay? Believe that a guy was swallowed by a fish and he was spat out in Nineveh. Just please, and now let's operate from that, right? And then you realize a lot of these stories are not even originally from the space that
they didn't even have enough fantasy to create their own story.
Right? It's lifted from older and
but if the thing is working.
It's working. But then somehow that's the logical world. And I'm supposed to be within that and believe that Ezekiel.
I look like the insane one when you point out that.
Now, me, if I believe in whatever and if I believe in Wamerua Gudo and I believe in all those people who came with my lineage, then I'm being unreasonable. I'm being irrational. So I'm trying to separate because I really am. I really swallowed the thing, not just the religion, even when I started spitting out the religion. The idea that things should make sense scientifically and they should make sense within in the 21st century this is the way it should be. I really have swallowed that, and I'm still unraveling that and be like, okay, this is the way I'm living my life, and these are things I still ascribe to and believe. But here are other things that are truer to me that were not taught to me that I have had to learn. So within that space, ndio najaribu kuongelesha watu.
Ndio nataka kuongelesha.
Yes.
Do the hard one. I think I spent the past 7 years just studying one thing. Asante. That you know also what to say.
And also I found them in the dark space, as you said. In the
but not to give like bad jokes, but are in the dark place. Okay. Cool. That's like giving me while enjoying it. independent. But I'm sure you went on safari. So I think I want reactions to the following thoughts. Yeah. When you think of your favorite novels, which face are you saying? Whose face?
My mother and my sister came out.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, because you said face.
Yeah. Cool. If you had, do you take flights? Do you travel outside?
I have traveled.
Yeah. How was that experience for you?
It was strange.
Yeah. You can give me something more on that one.
Yeah. Okay. It was strange. I was going for a conference-ish thing, courtesy of a friend, and it was in Europe.
Yeah.
So this is the last time I caught a flight, and in Spain. And I've always heard people talking about this. My first time traveling outside Africa is I've heard people talking about how you, as an African, it's the first time you actually feel your blackness. And the entire time, like I went being like, oh God, I hope it's not. And I was so trying to prepare myself for it. Then when the thing happened, I was like, oh, that's the moment. It was this place in like in an airport, and we were connected. I think it was Madrid or somewhere we were connected to, and they announced the connecting flight.
Yeah.
It stood, and I was this really dramatic kimono that Masido made. And then everyone turned and looked at me, and I was like, oh my God, everyone is white.
Yeah.
And everything, like, nothing about me looked like, apart from the jeans that I had under the kimono, everything else was so not like what they were. And
black is black.
Yeah, and nothing, no one said anything bad. Thankful for that. You know, there was no mistreatment of any kind, but just the feeling of being like, this is the first time in my life I'm in a room
and I'm the only black person.
And I'm the only person who looks like this or who has this. And then there's just the entire experience that there's there for like a week or so. Yeah. And there was this very lukewarm feeling to everything. It just feels like you get into a space and it's told that everything is dialed down. Even the interest people have in you, it kind of feels a bit and it's weird because there's also a language barrier. I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people I interacted with wouldn't speak like fluent English. And like, and then there's a point where we're connecting flights and I have like 5 languages under my tongue and none of them work. Like none. Like, this is insane. There are people operating from this continent, these I mean like the European continent, operating on one language or two, and that's why I was like, it was a very strange experience in that way. But then at the same time, there were all these positive things. It was like, but then it colors almost everything. It was like you meet actually genuinely wonderful people. Discover things like I'm a big fan of art and museums and all that. And there was this exhibition I walked through and I was like, oh my God, I really wish this amount of investment and money could go to an artist. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, but then a lot of this money came from the genocide of Native Americans. And some artist somewhere. hapo kule tu uko bwana ushibi kwa sababu watu hawaamini kukupatia ugali na
especially not for our stomachs. Okay. In the state of our country, where is your Kenyanness at? Kwa wapi mnafilaje?
It's
at this current state. You can speak on any part, but I mean where we are at right now, which could mean what your reality is.
It's in what are we doing, to be honest. It's in a I've been in a space where I'm very tired of everything and almost apathetical. Like I don't think I want to engage with it. But then that doesn't stop the video. It's in okay, I'm trying to care while protecting myself. In that I don't feel I have, as a person, the capacity to, like, on a daily basis, carry the tragedies of this nation or even absorb them. And I'm constantly like, tunadu nini, like, konge ukweli, what the hell is going on? And that's keep throwing dashes of complications. But it's also an understanding. There's a thing I've been thinking about for the past year or so. That this nation is like a century old as a concept. But as an independent, we're doing our thing, or we think we're doing our thing. It's 60 years this year. That's a very short period of time for a nation state. A lot of say our parents, a lot of them were born right before or during the independence period. Right? They either were the first generation to be born Kenyan or the first one to grow up knowing of themselves as Kenyans. Right? And so we have all these things we throw around that I am guilty of as well, is judgment of people with tribal leanings and all that. And like, that's the only identity people have.
People have even had prior 60 years.
And this Kenyan construct is very new in the scale of like how the world operates. But it's also very fresh to a lot of people. It's something we've had to be like, okay, we're Kenyan, we're Kenyan, we're Kenyan. And it's also not ours. We didn't draw those borders. And so I've been questioning not my own Kenyanness, but the meaning of Kenyanness. What's this Kenyan experiment? And is it the reason people are so unserious about the country by itself? It's like,
you see too, Kenyans are either not bothered or there's a dismissal to even what they will language, or real language is the problem, Do you feel it's orchestrated to make us so tired and unmotivated? Or do you feel that it's also some place we've been for a while? Do you feel it's a shift in the Kenyan civic engagement, that we are this resigned but aware?
I think it's an old tool in new times with new spaces. It's a very capitalistic system, which drives it drives towards extraction. It is. A president is not ashamed of it at all when saying, the best resource we have is human resource. Right? It's like labor. It's like this country was built on extracting labor. We don't have huge gold reserves and all that. And so most of the time, ufanye kazi. Fanya kazi, and it's everywhere. It's in the religion, it's in the family. It's like if you don't work, you don't deserve to eat. People ask you, uko na kazi, hautafuti kazi, ulikataa kazi, unataka kazi, like work. So much work, you don't have time to look at what's not functional and then speak out against it or towards it. And it used to work for a while, and the mediums for expression were very limited. Then social media happened. And there were so many people talking so much about so many things, and you couldn't just shut down everyone. You could arrest a few, but then you can't really everyone. And my theory at the moment is, since you can't shut down all this, is then you do the opposite. Is you flood that space with so much for people to talk about that they become exhausted, right? Where $1 billion used to be an insane amount of money. Like one scandal for $1 billion, talk about it for a while.
We're listening on something. That was the biggest thing I've ever had in our childhood.
So if people will steal 50 billion and then there will be another one next week. And nope. And we'll be like, it's like that. It's like we're giving you this kind of to prepare you for the one that's coming.
And trust me, it's bigger.
And it's just not sustainable to keep talking about them and to keep digesting them. At some point, you either shut off, or you become desensitized, or you go insane. Right? And that's the part that I feel that's orchestrated. It's so much flooding of these things that you stop caring about.
Okay, another question. That's somebody is a kidogo. I'm creating questions. Okay. If there was, I deliver yourself a bunch of cards. Which card do you know you've been sad that you'd like to give back? Which one would you like to replace it with?
Joke about it.
Laugh your way out of it.
Laughing for like the number which they play Kenyan poker here. The kind of kota tu makadi. And I'd like an ace of spades. It's a very big ask. But I'd like to request. Like
I'm even telling you how you go move.
What's going on next? Please. Like nataka hii ikiwa hivi. Please, tusonge hivyo. And we move. Kama hauna usinipatie.
It is relax. Okay. Yes. Oh, comfort food.
Why am I thinking about this? It should be really quick. Do we consider tea a food?
If you decide it is.
Minimum to kachai.
So even your comfort.
Yes.
Okay.
Lakini I was raised by people wenye wanakupeanga kachai kenye kamebaki ukingoja wakupikie kachai. Like wewe kunywa hatuna chai?
Tunaia flask yako tukimaliza. I think a lot of our children will be seated in how that was love also. Sex. Is it yay or complicated?
Yay.
Okay. Do you play games?
Is that part?
No, not in sex. Not in
just confirming.
Okay, but it's your interview, together.
Not as much as I would like to.
Yeah?
I do play games when they avail themselves. I think I should change that to avail the games.
Avail the games, yeah? Okay. If you were to receive the perfect gift, what would it be? Perfect. Yeah.
At the moment, it would be a 6-month rent is paid voucher.
You what? I thought you'd ask for days of skates. Really be happy to know. Okay. Your favorite cousin's name?
Now you want me to get into trouble.
There's still the time to fight, Marcy. There's a big two.
Siemu, kama unawachi hisi unajijua. Yeah.
If when you leave this world, what would you like to be remembered?
For trying.
Yeah.
Yes. For trying my best in whatever circumstance I was in.
So my favorite poem is called Ngartia. Andrea says, vanity replaces my favorite quality, meaning, and you are a fan.
Oof.
Thank you so much for your time, though.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. For the team. The questions. And for all the parts you're gonna edit out.
Kazi kwao. Kazi kwao, babes. I mean, you to the way, yeah, but
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bless you. May you never lack.
You slay your ancestors.
These are people open the formula and catch you. Hi. I'm enjoying it. I don't know about working.